In this video, I'm going to share the number one tip that helped me get lean and, most important, stay lean. And I was reminded of the value of this tip during the holidays when I saw my dad pigging out to the point of discomfort and thinking to myself, yep, that used to be me and that's where I got it from. It was Christmas Eve, and before dinner time, my mom puts out some bowls with some mixed nuts, some trail mix, and different goodies out there. And every time my dad would walk by the bowl, he'd grab a handful. Then dinner comes around, we sit down at the table, and he's like, oh man, I'm already full. But he still didn't stop him from eating his complete dinner there. I'm not sure if he grabbed seconds or anything like that, but he had dessert. And even after we had dessert, every time he'd walk by one of those bowls, he would still reach his hand in mindlessly and eat it and kind of laugh like we all see him doing it. Because I'm well aware of it, that's exactly what I used to do. Everything he did, I used to do myself. So I'm like, wow, that was me. So I find it fascinating, kind of laugh, and he would kind of laugh because he knows what's going on, but he still can't control himself in those moments. And he'd even be sitting down in his chair. He'd look across the room. The bowl would catch his eye. You'd see him get up, reach in the bowl. He's full, uncomfortably full, yet still eating. And I know that's exactly what I used to do. He's not alone in it. I'm not alone in it. And I'm sure a lot of you have gone through a similar experience as well. I would love to hear about your experiences down in the comment section below if this is something that you can relate to. But during that experience is just another reminder to me, man, if it wasn't for my mom, my dad would likely be obese. She's the one that does the grocery shopping. She controls the portions, the foods that they're eating, and she knows my dad incredibly well. She knows that he enjoys having dessert after dinner. He basically has to have dessert after dinner. It's what he looks forward to, but she does a great job of rationing the dessert throughout the week. And she knows that there's certain foods and treats that are triggers for him, so she will hide it on him from time to time. And that's exactly what she used to do for us growing up. Again, she did the grocery shopping. And yes, I was an active kid growing up. I played a lot of sports, but I know if it wasn't for my mom, I too would likely be obese. I wouldn't be able to control myself if there was always an abundance of these delicious processed foods all around that were easy for me to devour there. But again, with the groceries, she was great with the portion control. She never bought too much. She never deprived us. We always had treats available to us, but if there was a box of cookies, I got a row, my sister got a row, my dad got a row. She portioned, we all got our little portion. If there was a box of pastries or whatever that were all packaged up, we each got our portion for the week, and we ration it out throughout the week. That's what we got. So she did a great job of portion control, but I didn't learn portion control. So it's kind of what they say, that if you give someone a fish, you feed them for the day, but if you teach them how to fish, you feed them for life. So when I moved out of the house in my early 20s, and I was about to get married there, and I bought a box of cookies, I was like, you know what? I can have more than a row. I can eat this entire box right now. And that's exactly what I did. It's a big reason why that, in addition to life stresses and everything, I gained 50 pounds of fat in my mid-20s. And my ex-wife at the time, she couldn't understand why if I had one cookie, it led to 3 cookies, and 3 cookies led to the entire box. And I couldn't understand, how can you just have one cookie? How can you have one scoop of ice cream and be satisfied? That's all you need. You have a little desire for ice cream, a little craving for it. 1 scoop, you're good, you're golden. Yeah, that's all she needed. I was fascinated by that. I'm so grateful that my kids have gained that from her. That's something that they adopted from her lifestyle. It comes natural to them as it's natural for her. When they feel satisfied at the end of a meal, they have no problem pushing the plate away. That's all they needed. And they know they can save the rest for leftovers, or maybe they're going to be hungry 3-4 hours from now and they can have the rest then, but they're not going to, once they're satisfied, that's all they need. And there's been times where they were when I was my dad there pigging out, they're like, Dad, that's disgusting. What are you doing to yourself? They can see it and I know it, but I just couldn't control myself. Whereas them, it was just natural for them to stop when they've had enough. So I learned that about myself, that when faced with an abundance of food, I can't control myself. So whenever there was an event or a gathering, I knew I'd have to eat a little bit lighter leading up to that event or gathering. And afterwards, I'd likely have to eat lighter for a few days afterwards. And there was a time where, for several years there, where every Friday night I was going out with the guys and there'd always be a huge spread of food there. And I tried a couple of times to abstain and I can control myself. I can go there and I'm going to be fine. Use willpower, I'll be good. But I could never control myself. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to pig out on Friday night and then I'm going to have to eat really, really light the rest of the week in order to kind of balance things out, make up for it. I'm like, all right, this is my weaknesses. I know my challenge I'm facing. I'm just going to work with it at this time rather than try to fight against it. And it worked. Like, is able to lose weight or maintain my weight with that approach. It's kind of similar to, it was around that time, it was probably like 12 years ago, 13 years ago, the cheat to lose diet, I think is what it was called, where you'd pig out one night and then the next day they would fast, and then for the next 3 days they would eat lighter and then pig out again and just repeat that cycle over and over again. I think they kind of picked that up from their pen, wondering like how they're able to stay lean during their college days kind of thing, when they're pigging out and feeling uncomfortable. And the next day you don't want to eat much anyway, so you might as well fast and then go from there. And it's an approach that works. It works with your weaknesses, but again, I think there's a better approach, and there are consequences to taking that kind of approach. Although it's working with you and your natural tendencies at this point, I think it's always best to try to improve upon and build upon those natural tendencies. And the thing that changed for me was, because that went on for years where I would follow that approach because it was working for me. But it got to a point where it was one night after having one of those pig outs, and it was the same thing as every other Friday night. I'd go home, I'd feel full, bloated, just uncomfortable, just disgusting. I'd have a tough time falling asleep. I'm tossing and turning because I couldn't get comfortable. When I'd eventually fall asleep, I would be choking on my own vomit. I had acid reflux, so that would wake me up. It was disgusting. Then the next day, my digestive system would be out of whack, and I'd feel sluggish and lethargic. And so I'm like, I never, ever want to feel like that again. And then the other consequence of that is that as the week went on, getting closer and closer to Friday, my energy would start to tank. My mental clarity, my mental focus, my performance in the gym would all start to tank because I had to eat so light in order to make up for that pig out. And then by the time it came to Friday night, I'm like, oh my God, I'm ready to pig out again. So it just, like, they fed off each other. Like, if I'm gonna eat that light, I'm gonna have to pig out. And if I have to pig out, I'm gonna have to eat light again. And the two and two had to go hand in hand. And I just got sick and tired of feeling that pain and discomfort. I'm like, what am I doing to myself? Yes, I'm able to maintain my weight. Yes, I'm able to lose my weight, but my quality of life sucks here. And I just have, like, food has control over me rather than me being in control of this situation. I need to learn how to eat responsibly, to eat to that point of satisfaction, to be more like my kids and my ex-wife, where you can enjoy your favorite treats every single day if you are responsible with those portions. I think that's the thing with me, is that I was always, all right, I'm going to pig out now, but then I'm going to try to be like perfect the rest of the time. And you don't have to be that way. You can have a little bit each and every day. But the thing that really kept me, again, to eat responsibly was avoiding that pain. I never wanted to feel like that again. So every time I'd catch myself kind of getting to that point, all right, I'm starting to feel a little full right now, I'm reminding myself, I don't want to feel like, remember, if you eat a little bit more, you're going to feel stuffed. You're going to have acid reflux tonight. You're going to feel like crap. It's not going to be, there's no good that's going to come from that. So that pain, avoiding that pain alone was probably my biggest motivator. The second motivator was recognizing that when I learned to eat to that point of satisfaction, I learned to chew my food slowly, take my time eating, savoring every single bite. If I was drinking some alcohol, I'd savor every single sip. And I found that by taking my time and chewing slowly, I was able to recognize when I reached that point of satiety a lot sooner. So I was less likely to overeat, to get to that point of feeling full. But I also realized that I'm gaining greater joy and pleasure from this experience by chewing the food slowly and actually tasting the food rather than just trying to scarf it down as fast as I possibly can, as if I'm never going to be able to eat this food again, knowing full well that I can have this again tomorrow if I want to. So why not actually enjoy this food rather than just try to shove it down my throat as quickly as I possibly can? So learning to gain greater pleasure and joy from that eating experience while also avoiding the pain of overeating really were big motivators. So again, the number one diet tip is learning to eat responsibly, learning to manage your portion control. So what are going to be the things in those moments where you feel like there's potential that you could overeat that are going to kind of cause you to pause and stop pursuing more food after that? For me, it was avoiding the pain of that discomfort, the acid reflux, knowing full well what would happen if I continued eating, but also recognizing that, if I just take my time chewing slowly here and savoring every bite, this is going to be a very pleasurable experience. But I also have a heightened sense of awareness in these situations where I may be like my dad. If I walk by a bowl, I just grab a handful, put it in my mouth, and then I'm like, well, I'm mindlessly eating. This is what I used to do. I catch myself in that moment, all right, Scott, this was the old you. It's just that reminder of how far you've come and that you still have work to do in order to do what's going to serve you best in these moments here. So it has been a process. Like I said, there's a few years where I was doing that pigging out and eating less throughout there. And then once I recognized that I no longer wanted to pig out, it took time I'm still learning. There's still moments where I'll catch myself eating more than I wanted to, but still it's been 8 years since I've ever eaten to the point of feeling overfull, of being stuffed and uncomfortable. 8 years of eating to that point of satisfaction, or at the very most eating to the point where I feel full, but not overfull, not stuffed. So I take a lot of pride in that, of how I've learned to eat more responsibly, but also recognizing that there's still times when I'm eating more than I really need to eat, and I'm better served stopping a little bit sooner. So I'm catching myself more in these moments. So just know that we're always a work in progress. There's always ways that we can learn and evolve through these experiences. And it's not that, again, the approach that I took before was wrong. It got me to this place to recognize my weaknesses, my triggers, and what was going to serve me best in that moment. It might have been like pigging out rather than abstaining, but again, like having that heightened sense of awareness that, okay, this no longer serves me at this point. What's going to be better for me? And there's some people who do find it better to abstain, but for me, I never want to not be able to eat foods that I want to eat. I never want to not be able to drink something that I want to drink. I want to learn how to enjoy those foods, enjoy those drinks responsibly in a way where I can enjoy it, like really gain the greatest pleasure and joy from that experience and avoid any kind of pain and discomfort from it. So that's myself personally, that I think that's what makes this a lifestyle approach for myself, to be able to enjoy all of my favorite foods anytime I want, and to be able to eat them responsibly in those situations. It's really been the greatest gift that I've given to myself, and it's why it's my number one tip, because it really has been the key to me getting lean, staying lean, and really gaining the greatest joy out of life. So I hope you found value in this. I would love to hear if you can relate to any of these experiences here, what your journey's been like, and just know that it takes time. It takes practice. So don't beat yourself up. Don't feel guilty. Just continue to learn from each of those experiences where you do overeat, you do go a bit overboard, and what you can do to improve the next time you're in those situations. That's the key to your long-term success.